Let's jump right into the LSU Tigers. The Bayou Bengals, led now by Lane Kiffin. He comes down south from Ole Miss, and he is now at the helm of LSU. This is by far and away the biggest coaching headline of the offseason. I mean, Ryan, I know you got Michigan and Whittingham, and that's a really good, solid hire, but Lane is the sexiest hire of this past cycle, and I don't think there's any question about it. Do you?
No, he's definitely a way sexier hire, especially within the conference.
Yeah. Looking at what Lane has done in his very short time in Baton Rouge so far, brought in a ton of transfer portal talent. Looks like they got a pretty good high school recruiting class, or they were able to hold on to a pretty good high school recruiting class as well. Still have some holdovers like Whit Weeks from last year's team. So should be a very interesting and hard to predict team. Difficult schedule, but what do you see out of LSU this year? I guess, are you predicting something along the lines of right where the expectations are? I think their over-under is about 8.5, so like a 9-3, 8-4 type season. Or are you thinking they could go way above or way below that?
I think I'm pretty in line with where Vegas is on them. Vegas seems to be pretty high in them overall. They're only plus 160 to make the college football playoff, which I think seems about right. I'm excited. I love Lane Kiffin. I love characters like him in college football. People like him is what makes it absolutely great, entertaining every week. He'll get on Twitter. He'll fire off tweets at other coaches. Just the stuff he does just makes it fun. And it's really going to come down to, you mentioned it, the guys he brought in. Can Sam Leavitt be a guy that can lead them to the playoffs? I think he can be. I really do. There's plenty of talent on the outside. LSU is always going to have playmakers. And Lane Kiffin's a guy that's going to know how to use those playmakers. So I think they brought in a quarterback that is good enough to get them to the college football playoff and have them right there competing with every team in the SEC.
Marsh, look, we're going to find out right away, right? It's Clemson to open the season. Then you got Louisiana Tech, which should be a pretty easy win. Then they go on the road back to Oxford, Mississippi to take on Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, and then Texas A&M at home. So, in their first month of the season, their first 4 games, they have 3 games against teams that were either in the playoffs last year or the year before. So what do you make of this kind of opening slate, the opening month of the season? Give us a prediction, I guess, on LSU heading into October. Where are we at? How are we feeling about them?
Yeah, listen, LSU, it all starts with Lane Kiffin. And the fact that he did Ole Miss as dirty as he did, now granted, more opportunity at LSU, more history, more money, all the things. But just Lane Kiffin in general, I got to touch on because the guy is like, the best way I can put it is he's the most hilarious scumbag, I think, on planet Earth. Paul Feinbaum even said something along the lines of like, Lane Kiffin's on social, posting these things, making it sound like he's some funny dude, but he's actually super socially awkward. He's more of an introvert. But then you see some of the stuff that he does, like taking these jobs, and it always seems to be a circus and how he does it. And somebody had said when he was leaving Ole Miss to get on the plane to come to LSU, people were chasing him down like to the airport, a lot of F-bombs, birds flying, etc. And I mean, it's just the guy's pure entertainment. And a lot of times it's not even his intention. I think he's just one of those polarizing figures in college football based on his history. So I love that he's coming to LSU. I think he brings back a little bit more of an aura that LSU has been missing. I mean, listen, Brian Kelly has been a squid and fake accent and all that other stuff that really that guy's just a loser. And I think everyone's come to grips with that. But Lane Kiffin coming in kind of brings some heat to this program. Again, Death Valley's going to be jumping. We know the historic prowess of this program. So Lane is really the top story here. And I am just so excited to see them return to Oxford and what that setting looks like, because you're going to see people throwing stuff on the field. I think they're going to be trying to spit on Lane. There's going to be some serious animosity there. And there's nothing better in college football and huge fan bases with historic programs that are extremely upset about whatever has transpired with the other team.
Yeah, man. The that hottie toddy crowd, the Grove is going to be electric in week 3 when LSU goes to Ole Miss. I think they've had even when Lane was at Ole Miss the last few years, they've had some really good games, some entertaining, kind of higher scoring type games, if I remember correctly. And now you add in this vitriol, this true organic hate for Lane and his decision to leave them high and dry at the end of last season. It's going to be just pure theater, right? In Oxford, come mid to late September.
Listen, I think Lane Kiffin, quite frankly, is one of the more overrated coaches in the nation when it comes down to it. He's great at this high flying, up tempo offense, but as a head coach, I think you have to see the more holistic view of the team. And I don't really think Lane gives a shit. I think he's more of, let's score 40 points. I don't really care what kind of stress we're putting on the defense. We're going to score as fast as possible every single time, no matter the game script, no matter where we're at. And I think he's just that selfish of a person.
Looking at the roster makeup, we alluded to, all the transfer portal additions. They've got an experienced quarterback, but looking at some of the I guess question marks, the potential weaknesses on this roster, it appears based on some of the research that I've done, this isn't a stereotypical defensive backfield. There's not a Tyrann Mathieu, a Patrick Peterson, a defensive back that you can necessarily point to as kind of the all-American stud in the on the back end of the defense, right? On the offensive side of the ball, between Leavitt coming in, they always have, if not one stud running back, then kind of a stable of workhorse backs that they can lean on at LSU. They bring in Jayce Brown from Kansas State, and Eugene Wilson from Florida, so they should be pretty good in the receiver room. They've got just an absolute freakazoid and Trey'Dez Green at the tight end spot. So skill position and Lane's play calling, you feel like you should have what you need on offense if that offensive line comes together. And the big addition in the offensive line room this year was Jordan Seaton from Colorado. Deion Sanders not able to keep him out there in Boulder. But Ryan, from a personnel standpoint, are you kind of thinking the same thing in terms of feel good about the front seven, feel good about the skill players on offense, but defensive backs and offensive line seems to be where there may be some areas for LSU to get exposed this year. Is that fair?
Yeah, I feel like you always worry about your line, even when you have pieces coming in. You kind of have to see it on the field before you can really truly believe in it. And then in a conference like the SEC, you pretty much get tested every single week. But I alluded to it earlier. I believe in Lane Kiffin. I think he's proven he's going to find the right guys. He'll find a way to call the right plays, get the guys the ball in the right positions. Where I think he'll address the line, and that'll be fine. The defense worries me a little more, but I was just looking at their scores from last year. They lost a lot of low scoring games where the defense actually kept them in it, and they're pretty good. 13-17 against Oklahoma, 20-9 against Alabama, 24-19 against Ole Miss. So the defense was actually a little better than what I had remembered it being last year. So that even gives me a little more confidence that Lane is going to be able to get it done, because I do think he'll fix that offense very quickly.
Yep. Marsh, any personnel commentary notes that you want to add? Otherwise, let's look at the betting lines and figure out what we like with this team.
Yeah, just a little bit of a quick counterpoint to Ryan. I actually think defense could end up being the strength of this team. And the reason I say that is we know Lane is great at putting points on the board. Casey, you talked about kind of the pass catchers that have come in, but they don't have the running back workhorse that they are usually accustomed to at LSU. We saw what happened last year where if they ran for over 100 yards, they did it in 6 games. They won all 6 games. I think they were 1-6 in games that they didn't rush for over 100 yards. So you're completely changing the offense. You're talking about an offensive line that has to gel, to Ryan's point, no matter how good it looks on paper. But the defense actually held up last year, and they brought in even better pieces this season. So you still have Whit Weeks at linebacker commanding the green dot and really making sure that their continuity is there. But then you bring in Prince Will, the edge rusher from Ole Miss. You bring in TJ Daughtry, who had 98 tackles last season, Ty Benefield on the back end as well. And then, you mentioned, Casey, that they don't really have that star corner where DJ Pickett is going to be expected to elevate into that pretty quickly. But I actually think the defense is more stabilized under Blake Baker. I've seen Blake his days in Miami and his aggressive approach, and I like his style on defense as well. So I think it'll hold him in games early while Lane kind of puts the pieces in place. But ultimately, I think the offense is more of a question mark based on how long will it take to get to Lane standards before it kind of, as long as it doesn't bite them in the ass while they're doing so.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, guys, look, I'm gonna open up the kind of my take. I really like this team. I have a little bit of a hold up with Sam Leavitt. I didn't love what I saw out of him last year at Arizona State. Now I know he was fighting through some injuries, and I don't think he even finished the season for Dillingham out there in the desert. I watched a decent amount of their game when they had to go to Mississippi State, and he just he didn't look as good without Scadaboo behind him, kind of drawing a lot of attention and bringing guys up into the box to stop him. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about Sam Leavitt with the LSU Tigers. I like the over 8.5 at around -110, -115. Out of this group, SEC championship plus 900, 9-1, that Kiffin put something together with the defensive production they got coming back, with Bo Baker coming back, and then with a whole new offense, basically. I really like, a 9-1 flyer on LSU getting to Atlanta and potentially getting over the hump and winning the SEC championship. I don't know that I'd put serious money on that, maybe a little sprinkle, but I do like the over of 8.5. I do think they get to at least 9-3. Ryan, I'll kick it over to you. Out of the betting lines that we're looking at, what anything kind of stand out or anything that you love, or more of a stay away type team for you?
It's a stay away. There's just not much there. I think the 8-9 wins is right where I think they will end up. If I had to choose one, I would choose the over just because I'm rooting for LSU. I feel like it's a very popular team on those Saturday night games when you just flip on the game. But I'm going to stay away from SEC champ at plus 900 and college football playoff at plus 160. I just don't think there's quite enough juice there.
Marsh, anything that you want to plant your flag on with the LSU Tigers?
No, I'm right there with Ryan. I think the 8.5 number is right on the button. So for me, I don't really see value in that. Listen, we talked about how tough their schedule is. I just talked a little bit about how I think it's going to take some time for this offense to gel. The defense may be able to hold it together in the meantime, but I just don't see this team really getting ramped up to a point where all of a sudden they're knocking off all these top teams. This is kind of a transition year. I don't think Vegas has priced it that way. I think they've priced it as more of a Lane Kiffin shows up, this team is legit. And I don't foresee that happening this season. So I don't want to get surprised either. I've seen Lane Kiffin teams. I've seen them do well. I just am not sold on it in particular. And I think 8.5, that number is just too close to call for me. And I don't think they come out of the SEC. So I'm really just kind of staying away from the LSU Tigers in this one.
Gotcha.